No, you could get any one of
you
those
could
things.
get any one
Excuse
of those
me.
things.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm interrupting. VIP services sent me. I was told that this was my podcast today. Fresh Baked is mine.
This is
So
awkward.
awkward.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I was filming. This is so weird.
Well, yes, we are filming, but I'm the star of today.
Oh,
so
crap. I gotta go, guys. This is not my segment. Wait, can I hang out with you a little bit though?
I don't know. Do you know who I am?
I know who you. Do you guys know?
Do you know who I am?
I mean, I didn't mean to be not so, Fresh Baked. This is the lovely Kat Cressida, and we are very honored to have her with us today. And she did not casually bump into us, so. Just
Completely
saying.
staged.
Just
can you
saying.
tell?
Just saying. Kat, you're actually really cool. I have to tell you myself. And
Okay.
there's a lot of reasons that I know that you're really cool, but I don't like to.
Because you guys are really cool too.
Well, thank you.
Fresh Baked is really cool too.
I don't
it's an
like
honor
to
to
talk
be here.
your ear off.
But I can take your coffee while you're
One of the biggest
spieling.
things that you probably would know her from is going to be the bride from the Haunted Mansion. I actually wish I had her on. I have one of her little.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's Constance, right?
little pinnage.
Right. I mean, Constance Hatchaway. Like, who doesn't know that epic bride from the Haunted Mansion? So that's you.
That's me.
That's all you.
That's all me. How about that?
I don't have credit. Another one of your well-known would be the Tower of Terror. All three Tower of Terrors, right?
All three parks.
All
yeah.
three parks. And the
Little Girl Lost.
Little Lost Girl.
Little Girl Lost.
Little Girl Lost.
The one that's in the wall that you can hear in the queue, crying, singing. Can anybody hear me? Mommy, where are you? From the famous Twilight Zone
anybody hear
episode.
you?
Everybody hears me. It's kind of creepy.
And one of the other things that she does, that you guys might know her, is the voice match for Jessie. So not the actual voice from the movies, but the voice match. So that, I assume, would mean anytime Joan
That means
Cusack
anytime Lovely Joan is not available. So you hear me Midway Mania, you hear me on various Disney Pixar products, Disney on Ice, Disney Live.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of talent, Kat.
Thank
That's
you.
a lot of talent. You're very welcome.
Well, thank you. It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure. Have a good day.
Bye,
I'm gonna
Fresh
take your coffee.
Okay, I'm just kidding. Don't leave. I'm
Don't
just
leave?
kidding.
I was
don't
going to
want
take
her
the
to
coffee
leave.
and go back to sleep.
You can take my coffee if you want, but don't leave us, please. I actually heard something.
Yes.
A little birdie told me. You are the legacy? You have a little bit of the intro, a little bit of the knowledge of the legacy of Disneyland? Is that true?
Well, yes, I'm technically what's called Disneyland Legacy because my father worked with Walt Disney Imagineering way back when I was a little tot. And so he used to bring me down to the park constantly when I was a little girl. And one of the cool things was he would have meetings in what was called Mickey Mouse University at the time. It's now migrated to Backstage. But he would go over there. He would walk me into Main Street first, sit me down on a park bench, give me a coloring book and a journal and say, I'm going to leave you here for a couple hours, observe, enjoy. I'm pretty sure he would have tipped a shopkeeper to keep an eye on me.
Keep an eye on that one.
And tell me where who to go to if I needed to use the restroom. But it was really cool. I learned an awful lot as a little girl just sitting on Main Street.
Right.
And he would prompt amazing questions, which we can talk about when we're in there.
Yeah,
So,
would you mind sharing some of that
It'd be my pleasure.
legacy knowledge you got?
I would love to do that.
I would love to do that with you.
Cool.
So let's go, Fresh Baked. All right, Kat. So how's one of your typical ways that you start your tours?
My VIP tours?
Yes.
For super special people like
Yes.
Fresh Baked Disney
like
people?
Fresh Baked?
So normally when I start, I like to treat it the way back when I did VIP tours a long time ago, which is sort of an introduction into everything, the way that Walt intended it, because as we all know, it was sort of cinematic in how he envisioned how a guest would experience the opening, just like a movie open,
Yep.
soft open, soft bait in, movie credits, the whole thing. So, whole enchilada. So normally, I like to start people right here, this fabulous lamppost. As some of you may know, well, the saying goes, it all started with the mouse, which I happen to think is a little bit of baloney.
I could disagree with that statement.
Yeah, because Disneyland really started with a dream and a lot of guts and a lot of high risks and near bankruptcy several rounds, which is very exciting and adds a lot of drama to it. But it really started in the studios back in the 30s. Walt was preoccupied with trains. He loved trains. They had gotten him out of Marceline and into Los Angeles to start his animation career. And his idea was, what if I had a miniature train like I have in my backyard, and we build a lot of miniatures, And people pay to ride these little miniature trains around these little miniature villages, and we'll keep it near Disney Studios. And that idea went for a while. They literally had built scale models of this. That idea evolved into Travel Town, by the way, right near Griffith Park.
Oh my gosh.
Which a lot of people don't know. So that's sort of the beginnings of Travel Town.
Right.
But eventually, of course, Walt grew up, the money grew, interest in this idea grew, and it kept sort of marinating through the 30s into the 40s, and finally, of course, into the early 50s when they scouted this location. So in honor of that, Walt kept his idea of the entire park being surrounded by a train. And there's the train station right there that serves as the real introduction to the idea of Disneyland. And so I always like to start people with acknowledging that this beautiful train, which of course rides the whole periphery, or at least usually does, and will again one day, we hope.
One day soon.
Takes people around all the lands. And I used to like to start tours of Disneyland with a ride in the train. It kind of was a tease, right? A nice soft tease of kind of seeing what you haven't yet gotten to enjoy, but could sort of see the outside periphery of. So are you ready for your magic? Are you ready for a real dose of what Disney had intended? Take a look around and notice that we can still see the outside world. Through the trees, where we're not hiding there, you can see the Tower of Terror just beyond the trees. As you walk through the tunnel, acoustically, the sound dims. And the next thing that you hear, if you're a regular guest, and I don't know if you'll hear it, but we hear music. Kind of sweeps up and under, and suddenly you're in Main Street, USA. I got chills. There's a city hall, which you would have at the opening of any old-fashioned town at turn of century. You would have City Hall, sort of the first thing that would be on the main drive. One of the secrets, which some of you know, is the opening credits of movies. Back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, credits would come up first. When you watch a Disney animated classic, credits come up first. Walt decided to honor everybody who'd built the park by putting their names in the windows. So as we walk down Main Street, I'll stop a couple of times just to point out some of these really special names of all the people, all the Imagineers. Back in the day, they were WED, WED. That was the original WDI Imagineering, and they were all given special windows.
All right, Kat. Well, that was pretty magical.
Thank you.
That's a pretty magical introduction.
Thank you. And we magically made it over here. Did you notice?
Hey,
We're
YouTube
now
and Fresh Baked, we're so good at that magic. Trust me.
Yes, I am familiar with a lot of the windows, and I can point out a couple of highlights along the way.
Some of those?
I would love to.
Awesome. I want to see some
Okay,
of those.
cool.
Let's go, Fresh Baked.
We're going to go. City Hall, which also serves as an information center and a lost and found for little tots. J.B. Lindquist, who was the original head of marketing for Disneyland. When Disneyland first started, Walt did not have any sense of what kind of PR and marketing he would need, but he went to an outside firm, and he and J.B. really hit it off. So wouldn't you know, within a year, J.B. left his advertising agency that he was working for and went to work for Walt. Walt had that effect on people, which was kind of a risk because back then no one really knew how Disneyland was going to do. And my favorite Imagineer of all time is, of course, the first female Imagineer. Do you know who that is?
I don't know who that is. Who is it? I wish I did
That
know.
would be Harriet Burns, who was an extraordinary woman. When you see the old classic Disneyland show, and you know, Walt would sometimes show miniatures of attractions.
Yeah.
Oftentimes she was the woman who was with him. So her window is up there.
That partner's window.
And what it says is miniatures, Harriet Burns, professional miniatures. So that's her window dedication up there.
All right, Kat. So most of our Fresh Baked muffins, they've got some Disney knowledge in their background. They know a lot about their Disney, and most of them know about this kind of forced perspective thing, supposedly, maybe not supposedly, going on Main Street. Do you have any information, any like secret knowledge information on the forced perspective?
Well, I don't know how secret it is, but my father, again, when I was little, and he would park me on that park bench right over there, would teach me a lot about, again, the conscious decisions that were made by the Imagineers and how the park was going to open and what Walt wanted for folks. So, of course, the forced perspective was there in a lot of reasons, psychologically, so at the beginning of the day, Main Street would look, wide open and happy and very, very long. And then at the end of the day, as you returned, it would look shorter and not as, much of a grind.
Right.
But another very conscious decision was made with regards to the color scheme. You may notice, or I hope you notice, each and every one of these colors on Main Street is soft. It's a soft palette, and that's very consciously done.
Yes.
There's nothing jarring. There's nothing overly bright. Everything sort of has a warm, almost tinted through that lens of nostalgia kind of a feeling. And that's very conscious. And you also probably know, or maybe you don't, that every single color has been coded and archived since Disneyland started. These colors, unless there was a conscious decision for some reason, remain the exact same as Walt first designated them. And they're all secret. Did you know there's only a few people who actually know how to mix those colors?
I did know that. And aren't they, most of them, kind of designated as Disney this or
Absolutely.
Disney this?
Absolutely. Well, Walt wanted at this part of the story, which is the opening of Disneyland, for there to be a warm, comforting reassurance and a warm welcome. So every color is soft and has a reassuring, warm hug of a feeling to it. And that's very conscious and intentional.
I think Main Street nails it.
I do too.
All right, Kat, so that was beautiful. I feel like I'm full of 10 times more Disney knowledge than I've ever had.
Yay.
You are a Disney Legacy. You've been interviewed a few different times, and you've been quoted as saying that Disneyland is the inspiration as to why you do the work that you do, which your main job is voiceover work, correct?
That is my only job at this point.
So Disneyland, where we are standing, this is the inspiration as to why you are a voiceover actor.
That is true.
So do you want to divulge a little bit on that? Is there a main reason that that's your inspiration, or is it literally stepping through the gates and it explains itself?
Well, I love that you asked that question. And you teed it up so beautifully, and there is a main reason, but I have to be impish and I have to then take us to the core of where it all started for me, voiceover-wise. Okay, here we go. Woo, woo, woo. This fabulous courtyard, what used to be the general store, which of course is now a Starbucks. So this awesome alley, this little courtyard, of course, is right by the Marceline Hotel. Where's the sign for the Marceline Hotel? Is it covered up?
Actually behind the scrim.
Actually behind the scrim.
Okay.
Well, behind the magical scrim, usually is the Marceline Hotel sign, which basically, of course, Marceline being the hometown, the legendary hometown where Walt had his happiest childhood memories. And they may have it down right now, and you may not be able to hear it, but in each one of these windows is an occupation. Of course, they're covered up by the scrim over here, but there's the detective agency, or there's dental office over here. There you go. So in each one of these windows, you would hear conversations, small town USA, middle America, USA, awesome conversations and arguments, and they would cycle, and you would hear like drilling going on in the dentist's office and someone shrieking with pain, and then you would hear over in the detective agency someone saying what they wanted the detective to look at, and you'd hear a dog barking in another one and someone telling the dog to shut up. But this is how I fell in love with voiceover, was that just through sound and just through character voices, you could evoke an entire era, an entire feeling, and again, that storytelling. This would fill out the story of what Main Street USA was supposed to be, and it was incredible. And then, I'm gonna sprint again. No, I'm not. Whoops. You follow me.
As you can.
The telephones, the turn of the century telephones, where of course, and you can still hear them. I don't know, can you hear them? Is it picking up? We don't know.
I won't know until I go.
You can literally hear old school open party line conversations. Gossip is going on right now. Oh, did you hear that, Mildred? I didn't know that she did that. I've been putting on a little weight lately. Oh, you can hardly even notice though with my corset if I pull it super tight. Now I have to go buy another corset because I busted my last one. Anyway, those conversations are going on. Occasionally a man would interrupt the conversation. It's usually the small town doings of turn of the century. You can actually still hear them. And again, you can imagine a little 4-year-old is listening to this, and it's magical. Plus, we didn't have phones like this. So, as a kid, you're like, oh.
That was some Disney Fresh Bake YouTube magic for you guys.
That was so cool.
I have to say really quick, because I'm always the one to make that happen, we missed something crucial. At the beginning of Main Street, we were like already halfway through the park. Nah, we came back, magic.
And I magically have
and
a
we
hot
magically
cocoa
have food.
and, yeah.
Kat,
Yes.
I heard, tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
If you were to call Disneyland, there are live operators, as there were years ago, still on premises.
Old school
That will
live
answer.
operators. If you call 714-781-4000, operators are standing by.
Right now.
They really are. And they are still this awesome, tight little crew of, oh my God, chocolate everywhere, of awesomeness ladies. And they answer old school.
Do they wear headsets?
They do wear headsets.
Oh my God.
And they actually have their actual operator's room is right there. Overlooking Main Street and directly across from Walt's apartment. Look, if you look at the eye line, they're directly
Do they ever like
online.
peek out at us?
Yeah, they do. I've been up there. It's tiny and old school and exactly like 1950s frozen over.
What you would want it to be.
Old operator boards, they're all still working out of that.
That's what I would want it to be in
I mean, I'm sure the phone system is turned over to digital, but they still have all the original equipment and they're all on their headsets and they're right there.
And they can transfer
And they
you
can
if
walk.
they need to.
This is all, of course, open. You know, they're all offices right here, and they can peek out. And I was up there once, and it was really cool. And I was like, Walt's apartment is right. That was intentional. So Walt was there, and you know, they were right there.
Okay, Kat, before we lose you for the day into the magical, mysterious world that you go into, Fresh Baked, we're really big fans of this area. We love the lights at night. We love what Walt did. And you do know some of the Disney history that has to do. There's actually some mythology about you when you were a little girl and when you were exiting the park. So do you want to divulge
have to do
on
the
that
lights.
a little bit?
I can divulge on that, or discourse on that, or just share it. A lot of people know that when Walt was first putting together the idea of Disneyland, he was invested in researching as deeply as he could other amusement parks. There had never been something like Disneyland, and so he traveled the world. He actually went as far as Europe and traveled to the different little tiny historical amusement parks. Of course, they started in Europe. And one of the most famous started in the 1800s, and it was in Denmark. Say it with me, Tivoli Gardens. Tivoli Gardens.
Okay.
One of the things that Walt was inspired by was the beauty, the landscaping, the orderliness of Tivoli Gardens, which to this day it maintains its well-groomed, very pristine appearance. And Walt would, you know, speak with Art Linkletter, who he brought over with him on some of this research, about how he wanted to mirror that in Disneyland. Another thing that really struck him was as the sun would set and, you know, kind of the gloom of night would sort of ascend,
Right.
it would light up with thousands of lights all throughout, and it was well timed out so that just as the sun was setting, magically all of these lights would appear. So of course, anybody who knows Disneyland knows that on Main Street, right in this area in the hub,
Right.
there's literally thousands of twinkling lights that hit the trees.
Right.
The story about me is that as a little girl, I did not yet know this. All I knew was that as I was exiting the park, I literally would be, you know, sad that I was leaving the castle and the fireworks and the magic of the day, but I always looked forward to this one moment, exiting the hub and entering sort of the top of Main Street for something very special and magical. Right at that magic hour, these lights, of course, thousands of little lights would go up, and they're all blinking and sparkling, and you know, I'm 4 years old, and I would stop right here, no matter what was going on. And there was, of course, crowds and people leaving from front, and I'd be like, stop for a moment, dramatic pause, because I was an actress even there.
Right.
Need to make sure that there was proper dramatic pause, and then I would point up very, you know, very actively, energetically, and go, fairies in the trees! So that any adult within earshot and child within earshot would stop and also look and see these thousands of blinking lights and the fairies. And I was convinced that it was Neverland brought to life.
Right.
That it was Tinkerbell and all of her friends, Pixie Hollow, even though as a tot we didn't have that term,
Right.
but that they were literally doing their business in the trees at night. And my father would let this happen. He would just allow me this indulgent, this silly little moment. And finally one day, maybe because he was, kind of over it, or maybe just to help educate me because he thought I was old enough to understand, he leaned down next to me. And, while I was still looking up at the trees, he would say, "Do you know why there are all those sparkling lights?" And instead of protesting that he already knew that there were thousands of fairies going about their evening business, I said, "No." And he said, "Those are actually the inspiration for Disneyland. Walt loved Tivoli Gardens, and this was something in Tivoli Gardens, so this was him bringing a piece of that to Disneyland as a reminder, as this is what inspired the park." Still to this day, when I leave the park, to this day, I still say that, sometimes under my breath softly, sometimes as loud as I can.
Yep.
Fairies in the trees!
Yep. Okay, Kat, I just want to be a fairy in a tree now.
I want to be a fairy. Everybody, let's all be fairies in the trees.
And I know that we're losing you soon, so I'll just cover you while you ferry up into the trees. Cover your back. But very seriously, thank you very much. All of Fresh Baked thanks you as well. I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun with you today. And I really appreciate you giving us the magic.
It was
That's all we
absolutely
ever
my
want is
pleasure.
magic. So.
And I really appreciate you. Yay! Good. Fresh Baked everywhere. Bye, guys. Bye.
We've got lots more videos for you to see, so grab a churro and check out our Star Wars Land updates from the Knothole Gang, or maybe our Secrets in History videos. Or you can just watch all of our weekly trip reports and have your mind blown by how much fun we're having. We truly are the best of Disney Baked Fresh Daily. And don't forget, you can support Fresh Baked by joining our Patreon campaign or by buying a Fresh Baked t-shirt. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Fresh Baked!